Do you want to write your own tabletop role-playing game adventure super quickly? Or maybe you just need to throw something together for a game that you're running really soon? Well, I've got a fun tip to make things way easier and way faster. So I live in Cincinnati, Ohio, and we have an excellent zoo here in town. And when it came time for me to write an adventure for my new game, Teenage Mutant Tunnel Goons, I thought using a zoo as the setting for the adventure would be perfect. So of course, the first thing I did was look up the Cincinnati Zoo map. You know, they have them as nice printed brochures so you can find your way around the zoo. And this map is totally functional. It shows all the paths for getting around and where all the buildings are and where you can find each animal. And to me, when I'm looking at a map like this, all I really see is a fun fantasy dungeon ready to be explored with some of my friends. So Teenage Mutant Tunnel Goons is a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle inspired RPG. And when I was initially thinking up an idea for the adventure I wanted to write for the game, all I had in my head were cyborg animals from the future. Just a really simple, basic concept. But then when I looked at this Cincinnati Zoo map, it's like the fog cleared and the entire adventure appeared before my eyes. You know, it's all just laid out right there. There's kangaroos and monkeys and the gift shop and tigers, and I just started taking notes like crazy, and before I knew it, I had a list of key locations and a bunch of fun characters, and the adventure pretty much came together in like a matter of minutes. So of course, I jumped straight into planning out a map, and while the Cincinnati Zoo is laid out in this wonderful way that kind of takes you around a big circle, and you can choose where to go in to see the animals you want to see and then come back to the circle, it kind of loops you around. I knew that I wanted to have this big, epic final encounter with this super cyborg boss. So I decided to go with a more point crawl style of map. You know, each enclosure will be its own point on the map with its own encounter. And I like to use this sort of pear-shaped design. I think I heard Mike Shea call it a pear-shaped design. Anyway, it's where you start at one point and end at one point, but then the adventure sort of spreads out and then comes back together. In the case of this adventure, it starts at the entrance of the zoo, spreads out, explore the whole zoo, but it ends at this one point where the players will encounter the super cyborg hippo. The cool thing about this kind of adventure design is that you can sprinkle in details throughout all of the middle points that sort of lead the players towards that final cyborg hippo encounter. So even though you as the game master know where the players are going to start and you know where they're going to end, but all of the decisions the players are making in the middle of the adventure, it's up to them. How they want to explore the zoo is totally their choice. Okay, I'm getting really carried away with this adventure design stuff, but I'm just feeling so inspired, and this realization that I had, the tip that I have for you to make this stuff so much easier, is to use real life locations to build out your adventure. Or at the very least, get you inspired and get you started on the path to writing an adventure. Okay, so you're probably saying, you know, a zoo works great when you're playing a mutant animal adventure game, but what if you're trying to come up with a fantasy one-shot or maybe a sci-fi adventure? Well, even though it feels like I just stumbled upon this idea of using real locations to inspire my games, I've actually been doing this the entire time. So my very first adventure, Dragon Town, this was inspired by a place I've spent a lot of time in, the western North Carolina area where there's a ton of apple farms. So I ended up just making an adventure all about these magical apples. And I used some characters and inspiration from the area. Like there's this little halfling guy named Grandpap, and there's these goatland creatures because there's goats everywhere, and there's this general store. All kinds of real life stuff inspired things inside this adventure. So maybe you have a place that you visited or your local area that you can look at. You know, I love finding those illustrated tourist maps. They kind of like show a town or a region, and it shows the landscape and all of the like cool shops and points of interest that you can check out. Or you could totally look up and learn about places you've never been to. I've definitely looked up blueprints for Scottish castles or Egyptian tombs. If you're planning a sci-fi game, you could totally look up something like, you know, futuristic office building or some tech company campus. I think it does help to start with a map, but you could totally just read about places, learn some history, learn about the natural resources, what kind of wildlife and weather is there. Take all the real life stuff and then just put the fantasy or sci-fi spin on top of it. And I promise you'll be really surprised just how quickly your adventure will come together. Okay, so I'm drawing away on this zoo. I've got lots of ideas for fun characters and encounters. There's gonna be this roaming zookeeper who's trying to tranquilize all of the cyborg animals. So a group of meerkats have taken over the train and the players can jump on as like a shortcut to get around the zoo, but the meerkats aren't slowing down, so it's gonna be dangerous to get off the train. Whenever I go to the zoo, I have to get Dippin' Dots, you know, the futuristic ice cream. And so in this adventure, I'm going to have this red panda carting around the Dippin' Dots, and actually in Teenage Mutant Tunnel Goons, the way you heal is by eating junk food, so it's kind of like this portable healing station that you might run into. You know, there's a little bit of a mystery that the players will be trying to uncover as they explore the zoo. So some of these animals are going to be like friendly encounters, and then some of them will be not so friendly. I'm just really excited about this adventure. While I haven't come up with names for everything yet, the actual adventure is called Outbreak of the Animoids, and the whole thing is going to be available at the end of this month on my Patreon. If you sign up for the physical tier this month in August, you'll get the zine in the mail, but you'll also get this map. I'm going extra big, an 18 by 24 folded map of the zoo so you can throw it down on the table. If you can't tell, this is a player-facing map, so, you know, the players can look at this and decide how they want to explore the zoo. I'm just really excited about this Teenage Mutant Tunnel Goons project. The actual game rules are already available on Patreon, and I've been drawing all of the illustrations by hand and pencil, and then with just this regular ink pen and a Sharpie. I'm not even scanning in the illustrations, I'm just taking photos and then messing with them in Photoshop. I'm just having so much fun working on this stuff, and hopefully it sounds fun to you. Check out the link down in the description. Let me know what you think of this zoo map, and if you have ever used any real life stuff in your tabletop role-playing games, I'd love to hear about it down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!